Facts inform, stories inspire. When leading AI transformation, you need both. But stories often matter more than leaders realize. Spreadsheets showing productivity gains are important. Cost benefit analyses justify investments. Technical specifications document capabilities. But none of these move people emotionally or create shared vision the way effective storytelling does. This lesson explores how to use storytelling to make AI transformation tangible, relatable, and motivating for diverse audiences. Human brains are wired for stories. We remember narratives better than facts. We connect emotionally with characters and journeys. We understand complex concepts more easily when they're embedded in concrete stories. For AI transformation specifically, storytelling serves critical functions. Stories make abstract AI capabilities concrete and imaginable. Stories create emotional connection to change that data alone can't generate. Stories provide frameworks for understanding how transformation affects real people in real situations. And stories shape culture by modeling desired behaviors and outcomes. When you tell effective stories about AI, you're not just communicating, you're creating shared understanding of what you're building together. Not all stories work equally well for leadership purposes. Effective transformation stories share certain elements. First, relatable characters. Stories need characters people can see themselves in. For AI transformation, these might be team members successfully adapting to new tools, customers having better experiences because of AI enhancements, employees freed from tedious work to focus on meaningful challenges, leaders making better decisions with AI-enhanced insights. The key is relatability. Audiences should think that could be me, or that is me, or I understand that person's situation. And you need a concrete situation. Effective stories ground AI capabilities in specific, tangible situations rather than abstract descriptions. So, for example, this is weak. AI will improve customer service. This, on the other hand, is strong. When Sarah in customer service gets a complex inquiry, AI instantly surfaces the customer's history, identifies similar past issues and their resolutions, and suggests 3 potential solutions. Sarah reviews these suggestions, applies her judgment about what this specific customer needs, and responds in minutes instead of hours. And the customer gets better service because Sarah has more complete information. The concrete details make the capability real and understandable. And challenge or tension. Good stories involve challenge. Obstacles to overcome, problems to solve, tensions to resolve. For AI transformation stories, tensions might include balancing efficiency with personal touch, maintaining quality during learning curve, integrating new tools with existing processes, or developing new capabilities while delivering current results. These tensions create narrative interest and acknowledge that transformation involves real challenges, not just benefits, and resolution that demonstrates value. Stories need satisfying resolution that demonstrates transformation value. This doesn't mean everything is perfect. It means showing how AI capabilities, human expertise, and organizational support come together to create better outcomes than were possible before. And authenticity. The most powerful stories are true. Real examples of AI working in your organization carry more weight than hypothetical scenarios. Even during early implementation, when complete success stories don't exist yet, authentic stories about experiments, learning, and early wins resonate more than idealized fiction. Different story types serve different leadership purposes. Vision stories, what we're building. Vision stories paint pictures of the future state you're working toward. You might say, imagine 6 months from now. Come in Monday morning, and instead of spending 2 hours compiling weekly reports, AI has already generated draft reports from all your data sources. You now spend those 2 hours analyzing trends and developing strategic recommendations, the work that creates real value. Your role has not been eliminated, it's evolved to focus on what you do best. Vision stories make abstract goals concrete and desirable. There are journey stories, how we'll get there. Journey stories outline the path from current state to vision. You might say we'll start by automating our most time-consuming routine task, data entry from vendor invoices. You'll verify AI accuracy for the first month while it learns our specific formats and requirements. Once accuracy reaches 95%, you'll shift to spot checking rather than full verification. The time you save will be redirected to vendor relationship management, where your negotiation skills create more value than data entry ever could. Journey stories make transformation feel manageable and thoughtfully planned. And there are success stories. Look what's already working. These stories showcase early wins and proof points. You might say marketing tested AI-generated content variations last month. Instead of creating 3 email versions manually over 2 days, they had AI generate 15 variations in 1 hour. The team reviewed them, picked the best 3, personalized them, and launched. The campaign outperformed our previous benchmark by 30%, and the team spent more time on strategy than on execution. Success stories build momentum and confidence. There are learning stories. Here's what we discovered. Learning stories share lessons from experiments, including failures. You might say we tried implementing AI chatbots for customer service last quarter. The technology worked, but we learned customers wanted human escalation to be easier and faster than we had designed. We adjusted the interface, reduced escalation friction, and now customers appreciate the instant AI responses for simple questions while feeling confident they can reach a human quickly for complex issues. Learning stories demonstrate adaptability and create psychological safety for experimentation. There are challenge stories. Here's what we're solving. Challenge stories acknowledge difficulties and frame them as problems being actively addressed. For instance, some of you have shared that learning the new AI analysis tool while maintaining your current workload feels overwhelming. We hear you. We're adjusting the rollout timeline to give everyone more breathing room, and we're adding weekly training sessions so you can learn at a sustainable pace rather than all at once. Challenge stories show leadership listening and responding to concerns. So let's talk more about how you craft and deliver stories effectively. Notice in all of these we had very specific details. This is essential. Use specific details. A generic example would be someone in sales used AI and it helped. A specific example would be Marcus in our Dallas office used AI to analyze 3 years of customer purchase patterns. He discovered that 60% of customers who bought product A also purchased product B within 6 months. But we weren't suggesting that pairing. He created a targeted campaign that increased cross-sell revenue by $200,000 in Q1. Specific details make stories memorable and credible. Show, don't just tell. Rather than telling people AI will make work better, show them through story what better actually looks like. Instead of AI improves efficiency, try before AI, Rachel spent Monday mornings manually pulling data from 5 different systems, copying it into spreadsheets, checking for errors, and creating summary reports. Now AI integrates those systems automatically. When Rachel arrives Monday morning, the report is ready. She spends Monday mornings analyzing trends and preparing recommendations for leadership, work that actually uses her MBA and 10 years of experience. Showing through concrete narrative is more powerful than abstract telling. We want to connect to emotions where possible. Effective stories evoke emotion, excitement about possibilities, relief from frustration, confidence in capability, and pride in adaptation. For example, for 15 years, Tom processed insurance claims manually. He was fast and accurate, but he knew he was capable of more strategic work. When AI automated claim processing, Tom felt uncertain at first. His expertise seemed less valued. But then he moved into fraud investigation, using AI to flag suspicious patterns while he applied his deep industry knowledge knowledge to determine what was actually fraudulent. Now he says this is the most intellectually stimulating work he's done in years. This story acknowledges fear and resolution, creating an emotional journey audiences connect with. And include yourself in stories. When appropriate, include your own experience, challenges you've faced, learning you've done, and mistakes you've made. When I first saw the AI analysis dashboard, I felt overwhelmed. There were so many data points and I wasn't sure what I was looking at. I spent time with our data team learning what each metric meant and how to use the tool effectively. Now I use it daily, and I can't imagine making strategic decisions without these insights. But that learning curve was real, and I want to acknowledge that as you develop your own capabilities. Personal vulnerability makes you relatable and creates permission for others to admit their own challenges. But you see, in that story, you also set the example, stood up to that challenge, and you overcame it. So in this story, you're not only talking about your vulnerability. That wouldn't be good to just only talk about your vulnerability, or expressing that it wasn't easy for you at first and how you overcame that, so that they can learn from that, so that you can set an example as a leader. Now, the same story doesn't work equally well for all audiences. Adapt your storytelling to who's listening. For skeptics, use learning stories that acknowledge things that did not work perfectly and how you adapted. Skeptics respect honesty about challenges more than glossy success stories. Include specific, verifiable details that demonstrate authenticity. Skeptics distrust vague, idealized narratives. For enthusiasts, use vision stories that paint ambitious pictures of what's possible. Enthusiasts want to be inspired and given permission to imagine big. Include opportunities for their involvement in making vision real. Enthusiasts want to contribute, not just observe. For anxious employees, use journey stories that break transformation into manageable steps. Anxious people need to see the path clearly, not just the destination. Include support and safety elements prominently. Anxious people need reassurance that help will be available. For pragmatists, use success stories with concrete metrics and outcomes. Pragmatists want evidence, not inspiration. Connect stories clearly to business value and practical benefits. Pragmatists care about what works, not what sounds good. For senior leadership, use challenge stories that demonstrate your awareness of risks and mitigation strategies. Senior leaders appreciate strategic thinking about complications. Include competitive implications and market positioning. Senior leaders focus on external positioning, not just internal operations. Create a story repository. Build a collection of AI transformation stories that you can draw from. Document early wins. As AI implementations succeed, capture specific stories. Who was involved, what challenge they faced, how AI helped, and what results were achieved. These become your proof points for future communication. Collect learning moments. When things don't go as planned, document what happened and what you learned. These stories demonstrate adaptability and create psychological safety. Gather employee narratives. Ask team members to share their AI experiences. Their stories, in their own words, carry authenticity that leader-crafted stories sometimes lack. For example, a team member might say, "I was worried AI would make my role obsolete. But what actually happened is it took over parts of my job I found tedious, and I now focus on the strategic work I always wanted to do more of." An actual employee quote is more powerful than leader assertion. And track customer stories. How has AI improved customer experiences? Document specific examples that illustrate value creation. Stories work in various communication formats. There is the all-hands meetings. Open with a compelling story that frames the meeting's themes. Close with a vision story that inspires action. Written communications. Start emails or memos with brief stories that illustrate the point you're making. Example, last week, finance used AI to analyze spending patterns across all departments. What used to take a full day of manual work took 20 minutes. And they discovered 3 opportunities for cost savings we'd missed. This is exactly the kind of insight AI enables. And one-on-one conversations. Use stories tailored to individual concerns and situations. For example, you mentioned worry about learning new systems. Let me tell you about Jennifer's experience. She felt the same way initially, but after the first training session and a week of practice, she told me the AI tool actually makes her work easier. not harder. And training sessions. Use stories to illustrate concepts that make training relevant. Like, here's how this AI capability works in practice. Let me tell you about how the Seattle team used it last month. There is the narrative arc of transformation. Think of your entire AI transformation as having a narrative structure. Act 1, current state and catalyst. Stories establish where you are now and why change is necessary. We are spending 40% of our time on routine tasks that don't require our expertise. Meanwhile, competitors are moving faster because they've freed their teams to focus on strategy. We can continue as we are and fall further behind, or we can transform how we work. Act 2, challenges and growth. Stories acknowledge that transformation involves difficulty and learning. We're in the messy middle right now. Learning curves are real. Some implementations haven't worked perfectly, but look at what we're learning and how we're adapting. Act 3, new normal and possibilities. Stories show emergence of new capabilities and opportunities. 6 months ago, this kind of analysis would have taken weeks. Yesterday, we did it in hours, and that's becoming our new normal. Now we can start thinking about possibilities we couldn't consider before. This narrative structure helps people understand where they are in the transformation journey. There are storytelling pitfalls that you want to avoid. Some common mistakes undermine the effectiveness of stories. One example is overly idealized stories. Stories that present transformation as effortless and perfect without acknowledging challenges feel inauthentic and do not prepare people for reality. And they do not build confidence. Stories that exclude. Stories featuring only certain type of people, like only the young, technical employees succeeding, exclude others from the narrative. Ensure your story collection includes diverse characters, so everyone can see themselves in the transformation stories. Another pitfall is too abstract, which we've talked about. Stories without concrete details don't stick or persuade. Always include specific names with permission, situations, and outcomes. Or the pitfall of being disconnected from reality. Stories about hypothetical situations that haven't actually happened carry less weight than real examples. When you must use hypothetical stories early in transformation, be clear they're illustrative rather than claiming them as fact. You can undermine all confidence gained up to that point with a hypothetical story. So you want to measure your story's impact. Identify how you know if your storytelling is working. Some thoughts to consider on that are, do people remember and retell your stories? That's a really good sign. If team members reference stories you've told when explaining AI transformation to others, your stories are landing. Stories change conversations. If anxiety-focused conversations shift toward opportunity-focused discussions after you introduce certain stories, they are influencing perspective. Do stories generate questions? Good stories prompt thoughtful questions as people engage with the narrative and imagine themselves in it. Stories create shared language. When teams start using story elements as shorthand, like Marcus' situation with the cross-sell data, stories are becoming part of organizational culture. Storytelling is not just a one-time communication, it's an ongoing leadership practice. As transformation progresses, new stories emerge. Share them. As challenges arise, frame them as stories of learning and adaptation. As successes accumulate, celebrate them through narrative. Your consistent storytelling shapes how your organization understands and experiences AI transformation. Stories make abstract AI capabilities concrete, create emotional connection to change, and provide frameworks for understanding transformation's human dimension. In the next lesson, we'll explore transparency as a trust-building tool, what to communicate openly, how to address difficult questions, and how honesty accelerates rather than impedes transformation. You have stories to tell. Now let's ensure you're building the transparency and trust that make those stories credible and compelling.